Tonight's stories aren't just spooky, they're the kind that make you question what you're actually seeing. Because when shadows start to move and voices start to sound like someone you know, and spirits show up in places they shouldn't be, that's when you realize the veil isn't thin, it's wide open. What's good? What's good in the YouTube hood? It's your girl, Luna Nova, and I'm back with another one for y'all today. Welcome back to the Mystic News, where we talk about the creepy, the conspiracy, and the downright strange. For those of you that are new, welcome. I'm Luna, your favorite hoodoo homegirl and storyteller, as well as entrepreneur. Go ahead and check out the Shopify and the Etsy while you're here. Because we do what over here? Support Black and brown businesses. Yes, that's right. All right, so when it comes to tonight's compilation, we have chills in every direction. A mimic caught on camera imitating someone that wasn't even in the house. Another young lady who saw a shadow figure and didn't know what to do. A strange encounter that a poster had next to a hearse that just kept calling her. Another poster who had an encounter possibly with her Latin neighbor's ancestors. I'll leave that up to you guys. And last but not least, a story about a knot deer. If you know, you know. You don't say the name. We respect indigenous people, places, and culture. So we don't call it certain names. So if you're here for the supernatural, the spirits, and the things you can't quite explain, you're in the right place. So go ahead and grab your drink, grab your snack, and let's go ahead and get into this creepy compilation, only if you dare.
So I've had a mimic spirit follow me around for pretty much my entire life, always impersonating people that are closest to me. But about a year ago, I finally caught it on camera. So let's talk about it. So this is a night just like any other. And I have a couple friends over. We're just hanging out, playing some board games. My best friend is out of town. So I'm home by myself. And of course, that's when the spirits like to really mess with me, when I'm home alone. So everyone leaves about, I'm going to say like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm cleaning up the living room. I clean up the kitchen. I'm straightening up everything in here. I can actually show you a little bit of, so that's our kitchen. Bedrooms are down there. So I finished putting everything in the kitchen and I'm walking back to my bedroom. And our lights are hooked up to a certain voice command. And so we say, da da da, turn off living room lights. So as I'm walking, I say, turn off living room lights. The lights turn off, everything goes dark, and suddenly I hear, hey, from behind me, in the very room that I'm standing in. I turn around and I am frozen. So let me show you that clip. Alexa, turn off living room lights. Hey, oh my god. Alexa, turn on living room. I'm piecing together after this happens that this sounds exactly like my best friend. And I showed so many people, and they all agree with me, that it sounds like it's trying to impersonate my best friend. So I'm realizing the mimic is back. He's doing this. He, she, they, I don't know. But they are doing this, and I'm realizing that there's no escaping this thing. It goes dormant for a little while, then suddenly it'll pop back up again. And so I have a couple other stories with this mimic in particular. So if you guys want to hear those stories, leave it down in the comments, please, and I'll tell those stories. Because that's not the first time that it has impersonated my best friend. It's also impersonated my grandma who's passed away. So yeah, let me know if you guys want to hear those stories. But I'll play the video one more time, but I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye. Alexa, turn off living room lights. Hey, oh my god. Alexa, turn on living room.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Okay, so I have a story and it does sound completely unbelievable, but I swear it's true. So this is about the time that I saw a shadow person in my waking life. And I feel like you hear about them all the time, that like people see them in their sleep during sleep paralysis. And that sounds super scary, but I saw it in my waking life, completely like the middle of the day. So This happened a while ago when I was like 18. And I'll set the scene for you a little bit. So, um, basically what was happening was like I was getting ready to go to my friend's house for a sleepover, and her parents were out of town. So, we were gonna have some people over, have some drinks. Like the vibes were immaculate. Like my headspace, great. I was very excited. And I'll set up like I'll let you, like this is how the layout of my house was. So like my bedroom mirror is here, and then like my door is right here, and then across the hall is my parents' door. And if both of our doors are open, I can look right into it and see into their room. So I'm facing the mirror, I think I was like straightening my hair and like listening to Nicki Minaj, like probably rapping along to Super Bass or something. And out of my peripheral, I see someone standing in my parents' room. And at this time, nobody was home. Just my brother was downstairs playing video games. And then my mom was out running errands, and she was going to drive me to my friend's house once she got home. So I knew for a fact that nobody was home. Or no one was home that would like fit the profile of what I saw. So I'm looking in the mirror, doing my hair, and then I see someone, like a really tall person, standing in my parents' room out of the corner of my eye. So I turned to look, just half expecting nothing to be there, because like what would be there? So, I'm like, like turn around, like turn and look. And there was like this 7 foot tall. So basically it like looked like this giant man, maybe. But then like it had like horns that like went like, they like curled inwards, like very like Maleficent style. So I turn, look. Oh, and then the color, and like it wasn't like there were no features on it. It was just like black, like like a color of black that I've never seen in real life. It was like somebody cut a chunk of reality out in the shape of this. So yeah, I'm doing my hair, see that, turn and look at it, and then I like looked back at the mirror at myself, kind of like how like if you saw something unbelievable, you would like turn to your friend like, did you see that too? So I did that to myself in the mirror. And then I decided to look back, because part of me was like, that's not real. I had a tiny hallucination. I don't know what I thought, but I was like, look back, and it's still standing there. And then it like starts to run at me. Like it like is like so still, just like staring. And then it like goes to run at me, to which I then slam my bedroom door shut, turn my hair straightener off, throw everything I need into my sleepover bag, and then like just terrified, I'm like, holy shit, my brother's downstairs. My brother's downstairs. That thing is loose in the house. It's loose in the house. What if it's, or also slash, I was like a little scared it was gonna be like right at my door. But then at the same time, I'm like, that wasn't real. That can't be real. So I open my door, nothing's there, and then I just like run downstairs, and I tell my brother that like we have to go because mom is going to drive me to my sleepover, to which he was like, why do I have to come? And I was just because I didn't tell anyone about that thing for like, I don't think I brought it up to my family for like at least 3 years, maybe longer. Like I might have been in my mid-20s by the time I brought it up to my parents and let my family know about it, because I was always kind of scared it would like know somehow. It would be like, oh, you're talking about me. So yeah, anyways, that's the time I saw a shadow person in real life, and it was really weird. Still don't know what that was. And like there were always kind of like weird things going on in that house, but like nothing like that. Like as far as I'm concerned, no one else saw something like that. And yeah, I don't have an explanation for it. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen and experienced. So that's my scary story to contribute to this trend. Okay, thanks.
This is a true story that happened to me in 2005. So on this morning, it was early, and I could not go back to sleep no matter how hard I tried. I kept getting this gut feeling like something bad had happened, and my stomach was tore up. So I decided just to get on up, get dressed, and go see my grandma, who was in the hospital. Now, my grandma had been very sick for a few weeks, but the doctor said she was getting better and would be going home in a couple of days. The hospital was over an hour away from my house, and my gas tank was on E, so I knew I was going to have to stop and get gas. But right before I got to the store, my stomach dropped, and that bad feeling got even worse. So as I'm pulling up to the gas pump, a black hearse pulls in behind me and then parks right beside me. I can't stop looking at this hearse. It's like something is drawing my attention to it, so I lock my gas pump in and I walk around towards the back of that hearse and I see the name of the funeral home, and as I'm looking at the back glass, I notice there's a body in the back. So I'm just standing there staring at the back of this hearse when the driver comes out the store, gets in the car, and as he's pulling out the parking lot, I could have sworn I saw two people in the back glass. It looked like an old woman was sitting beside a young boy and their eyes were glowing. I freaked out. I thought I was tripping. It scared me so bad that I jumped in my car and floored it to my mama's house, and when I got there I told her what happened, and then she asked me what was the name of the funeral home, and I said blank funeral home. Mama said, "Oh my God, that's crazy. They just called me about 5 minutes ago and said that they're back with Grandma's body, so we have to go up there." I said, "Wait a minute, what are you talking about, Grandma's body? What happened?" Mama said, "I'm so sorry, honey, but Grandma died early this morning." I said, "Why didn't you call me?" Mama said, "That wasn't something I wanted to tell you over the phone. I was going to tell you in person when you got here." So the whole time I was pumping gas and feeling weird, my grandmother's body was in the back of that hearse right beside me, and I didn't even know it. So we think the two faces I saw was my grandmother and her teenage son who died in a car wreck in 1976 when he was only 16. His death devastated her, and she was never the same again, and she would always talk about how she was ready to go because she missed him and wanted to hold her baby boy again. And to this day, I truly believe I saw my grandmother reunited with her son for the first time in many years.
Y'all know I always got a good ghost story, and this shit really happens. I don't make this shit up, I'm telling y'all. So Saturday, which was November 1st, we get ready to go to bed, and I can't sleep because the neighbors next door are having a party. And in our neighborhood, we all are respectful of each other. If they're having a party, they got the speaker outside. Hey, it's good. Around 11, 12, we usually wrap it up, and we respect our neighbors, so we don't like call the popo around him, okay? But I was wondering, I'm like, damn, it's pretty late. Like, it was already almost 12, and they were still partying. Then I thought about it. I'm like, oh, it's daylight savings time. So they got an extra hour, okay? So I was like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and watch a movie, okay? So I told my husband, I'm like, hey, I'm going to watch a movie because I can't really sleep. They're right next door to us, and they're Hispanic. That is needed for content later. And so he was like, you know, you good, because my husband can sleep through a train, through anything. Like, he can sleep through it. I can't. So I'm watching this movie called Heaven is for Real, I think it is. Y'all go check that out on Netflix. It's a really good movie. It's kind of cheesy, but it's a good movie. At any rate, I'm watching this movie. I finished watching the movie. My moving around wakes him up. He goes to the bathroom. When he comes back from the bathroom, I already got the TV off. I'm like, I'm going to try to go ahead and go to sleep even though the music's on. I'm just going to try to go ahead and go to sleep because I know you want to sleep, because I had done woke him up, of course, with me watching the movie and everything. So I go ahead and lay down. As soon as I lay down, you know, and turn the TV off, I hear the music stop. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Cool. Go to sleep. Right into probably an hour or two into my sleep, and I cannot sleep with light. I can't sleep with noise. That's not me. Like, I'm going to wake up. So the TV was on and I could see the light in my face. And so I woke up and it scared me, startled me, because I knew I just turned that TV off. So I wake my husband up. I'm like, hey, did you turn the TV on? He's like, no, what are you talking about? So we started looking for the remote control in the bed because maybe we rolled over on it. I'm trying to look for a logical explanation as to why this TV's on when I know I turned the TV off. So I found the remote control beside my bed, and now I'm weirded out. I'm like, that's really weird, you know? So the next day I call, I'm talking to my best friend about it, and she's like, hey, your neighbors are Hispanic, right? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, you know, it's a Hispanic holiday where they like conjure up the dead. And I'm like, what? She says, yeah, it's the Day of the Dead, but she says it in Spanish. It's like D something Marlos or something. I can't speak Spanish, but it's something like that. I'll put it on the screen. I'll Google it and put it on the screen. So I'm like, what? Basically, when you do like a Google search, I'm not familiar with it. So if anybody's Hispanic on here and can correct me, or if I'm saying this wrong, I apologize. But to me, it looks like they kind of welcome the spirits. Like if someone's passed in their family or their friends, they kind of welcome to say hello on these 2 days, November 1st and 2nd. This was November the 1st that happened. And so on November 1st, it's usually the children that they, you know, connect with. Was it a kid over at my house then came next door trying to play with my TV, y'all? What the hell? because my nephew comes downstairs that morning. He don't know about what's going on. He comes downstairs and says, I was scared last night. I said, why? He said because he heard somebody walking down the stairs and go into the kitchen. What the fuck?
This is an Appalachian story, but it involves pretty much every terrifying thing that you could think of that could happen in Appalachia, and this one terrified me. So this guy grew up in Henderson Ridge, and he grew up knowing these rules. Don't whistle after dark, don't answer the woods if the woods answer you, and if you see something in the woods that looks almost right, go inside. Now, he didn't take these rules seriously until the fall his cousin Jess moved in. One day, him and Jess are patching a fence line behind the house when they both hear their names being called, like by the tree line. First Brian's name, clear as a hello, and then Jess's. Here was the strange thing. It sounded just like his mother, as if she was tired. The only problem was his mother was in town closing up a pharmacy. So he looks down at his phone, and then he looks at the driveway, and his mom's car is gone. So they're just sitting there for a second waiting for their names to be called. They're just waiting to see if this thing says anything else. So at this point, they tell themselves that it's just the neighbors fooling around. But the next night, something stranger would happen. So the next night, they're inside when they start hearing something pacing the gravel beside the porch. Slow, deliberate rhythm, like a boot heel, then a scuff, then a quiet. The scary thing is his dog wasn't barking. He went and hid underneath a chair, and he was shaking so bad that his heels started to click. Brian decides that he's going to open the door because this dude is brave. So he walks over to the door and he opens it, but all he can see is fog. A week later, his cousin begs him to ride into town for a late shift. He says yes, and they take what's called the Ridge Road. No shoulder, tight turns, and deer everywhere. Just past this old sawmill, his headlights catch this shape standing in the ditch. Then the figure starts rising up onto the asphalt, and he said that this thing looked like a deer if somebody were to describe a deer who had never seen a deer before, if that makes sense. The legs were too long and they were bending the wrong way, and its head was cocked to the side. It just made him incredibly uncomfortable. It stared straight through the glass right at him, the way that a person does, and he swears this thing did not blink. Jess just whispers to him, "Don't say anything." Brian just eases around it, and then he looks in the rearview mirror, and this thing is taking 3 steps towards him, then another, then it just drops out of the light as if the road had swallowed it. He said for the rest of the ride, they were so freaked out, they didn't even talk to each other until they got to Main Street. So after midnight, he drives home, and he drives down the same road, and his radio starts to fizz out, and it fizzes out normally where it does when he passes this rock cut. Right as the static rose, his mom's voice rose over it. She sounded calm and ordinary, and she said, "Pull over for a second." He said that he did, and his hand had already tapped the blinker when all of a sudden those rules rose up in his head. Do not let it get you out of the car, he kept thinking, and then the voice just stopped. It didn't repeat. 2 nights later, the mimicry got mean. He woke up at 3 a.m. to his dog's low growling under the bed. His house had this weird pressurized quiet that they get before a storm, except for the forecast was clear. Then a knock at the door, not frantic. 3 measured taps. He goes to check the clock to see what time it is, and it's 3:12 a.m. Then he hears another knock at the same pace. Then his mother's hushed voice comes through the wood and says, "Honey, open up. I forgot my keys." He was halfway down the hall before the details snapped in place. His mother never called him honey. She calls him kid like she did when he was 6 years old, and if she left her keys in town, she would have called him. So he just immediately stops moving, but then the voice tries again. This time it sounds like a singer flipping flat, like, "Honey, let me in, it's cold." This time his dog just starts going crazy. He's barking at the door, he's growling, he's snarling. So Brian goes to the kitchen window and he just lifts the corner of the shades. There's no one there, no shadow, nothing. But then he hears it again, 3 knocks. He said that he actually answered, and he said, who is it? But silence, then a new voice, but a child this time, or like an adult aiming to be a child. It said, "It's Jess. I don't feel right." That's when he made a rule of his own. No one gets in the house after dark unless I see their face in daylight. So he says, "Go to the front door. I'll meet you there." Nothing moved on the porch, but the dog's hackles stayed up, and then he started counting to 60. No steps, no boards, no weight shifting, but finally from the wrong side of the kitchen, outside of the far window over the sink, his mother's voice again. He hears her say, "Don't make this hard." He didn't sleep a wink that night, and then later on that day, when the sun finally rose up, he walks outside and he checks for handprints, footprints, nothing. It doesn't even look like a raccoon was out there. 2 days later, Jess comes home from the diner, and she's completely shaken. I'm assuming this is where she works. She said near the rock cut where the radio normally dies, she had seen a shape in the road. She said it was in the middle of the road this time, though, and it was standing in her headlights, and it was super tall, taller than a man, but wrong like a deer. She says that its legs were bent backwards, and as soon as she eased eased closer to it, it cocked its head really fast towards her and just watched her drive by. She said she started to feel this pressure behind her eyes like a migraine was starting, and then her hands went numb on the steering wheel. She went 30 yards past it, looks back in the mirror, and it is gone. So he said that after this, they did what normal mountain people do, and they asked around without saying too much, and people had stuff to say. One man said that he had chased a lame buck from his garden a week before, but as soon as it got to the tree line, it started walking on 2 legs. Another woman heard her husband calling from her back steps while he was 2 counties away hauling cattle. And this is the creepiest one. A little boy from his church said that he heard his grandmother singing outside of a trailer. Only problem, his grandmother had passed away a week before. The next night around 2:40 p.m., the wind kind of kicked up a lot. It wasn't storming, but it was very windy, and his lamp outside went out. It went black. He was on the couch with his dog under his knees and in his lap, when suddenly he heard footsteps coming up on the gravel, first heavy, then light, almost if they were testing the weight, like a human. Then it stopped 6 inches from the back door, and he said that he literally stopped breathing. The knob turned a fraction and then stopped against the lock deadbolt. He said a full minute passes, and then the steps went down again, first slow, then quicker, then like a scuff, like something pawed the gravel and then sprinted away on 4 legs. He said the next day when it turned daylight, he went outside to check to see if there was any tracks anywhere, and again, there were no tracks. One thing that there was, though, it was a scratch on his deadbolt. A thin crescent of metal shaved from the faceplate, like a thumbnail had pressed and dragged down. He said after all of this happened that his cousin moved away. He kept the porch lights on all the time. He lived a little differently. He says if you ask him if he believes in SWs, he'll tell you that he respects the people that those stories belong to and the land they come from. He doesn't use the word where it doesn't belong. He said maybe it was a mimic, maybe it was a haint, maybe it was a not deer. He said what he does know is it was mimicking the voices of the people he loved. He said whatever name you choose, remember the rules. Don't answer a voice where it shouldn't be. Don't let anything talk you out of your car on a lonely road. And if it looks almost right, go inside, lock the door, and wait for daylight. So what did you guys think about that story?
Well, that wraps up for tonight's journey into the strange and unexplained. If you love this video and you want even more deep dives, make sure that you check out my podcast, renamed The Mystic Files. Yes, because I had to switch up the name because I wanted to expand the topics. So I just felt like it was appropriate to give it a new name while it's still fresh. Because on the podcast, I'm going to be breaking down paranormal encounters. Because on the podcast, I'm going to be breaking down paranormal encounters, folklore, magic, and other mysteries, as well as entries from my viewers. You know, all the little things that keep us up at night. I don't know if you're like me. I've mentioned it several times. I love to go deep diving down those CIA documents. And that's something I really want to talk about on the podcast. So if something like that interests you, definitely check it out. So of course, if you have a creepy encounter of your own, make sure that you go ahead and check out the description of this video so you can go ahead and submit your story so it can be featured on The Mystic Files. I like the way that sounds. You know, some of my favorite TV shows growing up were The X-Files. I love now watching The Forensic Files. So I was like, you know what? The Mystic Files. It just fits. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here and edit this one so I can push out another one for you guys. But until then, stay safe, stay aware, and remember, if something feels off, it probably is. So drink your water, mind your business, and stay prayed up and protected. And as always, Luna loves you. I'll be back with another video for you guys, if the spirits allow it. Give it right back, did they give it right back? This up, kitty, can I sit right back? Wanna give it right back?